the topics, man. So speaking of verses, let's talk about this. I want y'all's input on this. What's the next versus battle that can happen? So we never thought that we would see No Limit versus Cash Money, right? I never thought in a million years that I see that. I thought that with Baby ain't no enough money that you can pay him, but they did it. So if we had a Cardi versus Nicki battle, do you see that happening? Anything's possible, but for the people who love verses and stuff, who do you think will win out of Cardi versus Nicki? In my opinion, okay, if it's 20 for 20, 10 for 10, or whatever like that, I know Nicki is the quote unquote bigger artist that what you would say sold more, had more chart success. Cardi, that's because Cardi didn't really put out albums like that. But if you ask me, and I like Nicki better as a rapper, but if you asking me, I'm gonna go with Cardi. I'm gonna go with Cardi. What y'all think? What y'all think? Oh snap! Chris versus Usher. That would be. Whew, you know what? That might be. Damn. You know what? We'll talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. Let me add that to the queue. Hold on. You hold that thought because I didn't think about that one. Um, Let me add that in there. Hold on a second because we're gonna have to have a discussion about that one. We'll talk about that one after this Cardi versus Nicki. But Cardi versus Nicki, who y'all got? I got Cardi. Yeah, okay. So Cordero, you say Cardi. Uh I'm gonna get to that. You naming some of the ones, or trust me, I'm gonna get to that. But I want to stick. I'm gonna do Cardi versus Nicki. Then we're gonna go into another one, that Usher versus Chris Rock. But I feel like Cardi would get Nicki simply because if you're comparing catalogs, right? If you're comparing catalogs in music, we know verses isn't just about song for song; it's about stage presence as well. But verses also is about you could have those records like Dipset versus the Locks. Obviously, Dipset had more than the Locks, right? But more hits. But the Locks won by being more grittier and stuff like that. Cardi's music hits harder than Nicki's music. Nicki may be the better rapper, but in a versus battle, if Nicki does super bass, Cardi could come with some hard hitting stuff, man. She could hit it, with I like it. Or you know what, super bass and Cardi could do I got a condo. No. What was Cardi on? The finesse one. Excuse me. Dripping in finesse, right? And then Nicki don't have street songs like that. Like on her mixtape, she did. But Pink Friday, I just asked if Pink Friday was a classic on my Who Gave You a Podcast show with CJ, and he said it was, but I say that it ain't. But if you ask me, I'm gonna go with Cardi, man. Like I'm more of a Nicki fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm more of a Nicki fan. I just not even a Cardi fan. I just liked her project she put out this year. But I know in a verses, if it's hard hitting, you know what I'm saying? If it's song for song, I think Cardi would get Nicki. You said Cardi don't have enough songs. She got 10. If they did 10 versus 10, she got 10. She may have 15, man. Let me see, because she had a play. Like if you're counting features, I think she'll probably do pretty good. She might get to 20. I know 15 for sure. And like you said, Young Menace. I just had it. Or you said Rain shot the or Rain 4804. You said Cardi's more likable. That's true. And then Nicki is most pop. That's why I say Cardi would get her in a versus battle. That's why right there. It'd be interesting to see Nicki maybe go against Missy. That'd be cool. But I think Cardi would get her. I really think Cardi would get her when you're talking about just music, going at music, because like even some of the songs Cardi put out just recently, like they hit harder. And I've just learned to find out like in these versus battles, if you got the harder hitting songs, you might be the victor over that, you know. So that's the yeah, Cardi songs, I agree. They're more street or more ratchet. So that could be better for the crowd in the verses. That you can turn up the Cardi songs. There's only like a selected few songs from Nicki that you could turn up to, like Did It On Them, the Mrs. Itty Bitty thing, Mrs. Piggy from she did this, she got a dunk. I'm trying to think what else. You could do Fuck the Club or other, you could do that one. There's maybe a couple of them, but Cardi got more turn up songs. So I would give that to Cardi. Shout out to 0112 Jesse. You said P is also better MC rapper than me. I said that. Absolutely. All right, so let's go on to another fictional